I just realized, good morning everyone, I'm Tom Vasel. I just realized that episode 368, we have enough board game breakfasts out there now where you can watch one for an entire year, one a day. That would be insanity. I do not recommend that. Welcome back. It is January 18th here, and wow, we're already more than halfway through January. What a day. So a couple things. First of all, we want to talk about the sponsor of this episode, which is Pandasaurus Games. And you can see here behind me Machikoro Legacy, but we're actually talking about the normal Machikoro, which has been re-rolled out right now. I was about to tell you what store, but I can't because that's a question of the week. The 5th anniversary edition, plastic coins, bigger cards, and better text for those people who have problems with their eyesight. We're giving out 3 copies of this. And this is anyone in USA, Canada, or Australia can enter this contest. All you have to do is email us at contest@dicetower.com. Put in the subject line, put the word mayor, as in the mayor of a city, M-A-Y-O-R. And in the body, put your address and also answer the question, in what big box store can you find Machikoro? So, that's that. Also, we are running a Kickstarter. Did you know this? If you haven't, and I know that it gets repetitive, but one of the reasons we run a Kickstarter is so that I'm not this repetitive the entire year round. We're raising money for the Dice Tower. The vast amount of majority of our money comes from Kickstarter. So we launched this a little bit less than a week ago. We have funded. We are now going to various stretch goals. One of the stretch goals we just hit, we'll be doing a spring and autumn spectacular, so I'm excited about that, along with our summer and winter, so all 4 seasons. And did you know that a week from today, we're starting our top 100 games of all time? So lots of cool things coming. I got lots of reviews I'll be recording this week. We played some pretty big games that we'll be talking about as the weeks go by, so just lots of good content coming. And if you like that content, and if you want us to make it better, because that's our goal, we want to make it constantly better. We want to work on editing and things. Even today, like every day, we talk about making things better. Like today, we were talking about my new panning of components, and we're working on making that look better. And hopefully, starting this week, you'll notice that. So we make a bunch of minor changes that you can see in a macro evolutionary way if you take a look at a review I did in 2008 compared to one I do now. So all that's going on, and spring is here. Well, spring's here. Sorry, many of y'all are in winter, or if you're in Australia, you're in summer. But it's beautiful here. You should move to Florida. Anyhow, so there's a lot of things going on, and I hope you're having a good morning breakfast. And I think I've rambled enough. So let's start with a contributor.
Hi, it's Tarrant.
And Stella.
From Maple University and the Dice Tower. So you're the one who controls our printer, and you're the one who likes cutting in this house with scissors. So
because you don't cut properly.
Well, I am lazy at it. So do tell us about your print and play experiences.
Well, actually, I do want to ask the audience: do you back a project on Kickstarter, back only the print and play? Do you end up usually printing the game? Do you print it at home? Do you print at the printer? I mean, I personally backed a few projects already, but when it comes to I've got the game, I'm just too lazy to actually print it, because then you have to print it, you have to cut it, you have to like maybe double-sided it. It does take time.
Sleeves often sleeves.
Yes,
when
yes.
it's cards to make it work.
Correct. So I don't know, just let us know. I want to know how your experience is, and do people actually print and play games? Okay, I do probably print something like a few, like the Palm Island or something like that. But I backed the City of Big Shoulders, I believe. And I got it and then look at it like how many pages. I think I printed some, but then halfway through I'm like, nah. And then there are other games keep coming. I'm like, no. So yeah, let us know in the comment sections. And we are Maple University and also on the Dice Tower, Stella and
Tarrant.
See you later.
Bye.
So they are, see, in the middle of summer there. So they're having their summer get-together. Alrighty, so today we're talking about something I found on the internet, and if you find something interesting, you can send it to me at tom@dicetower.com. That does not mean I'll talk about it, but you never know. So today, this is a channel I already follow to some degree, Chris Ramsay, Ramsay. He talks about magic, puzzles, and vlogs. But the main reason I discovered his channel is because I'm a big fan of those little metal doodads that you take apart and put together. And since about 90% of the time I can't figure them out, with the exception of occasionally I'm sitting there going, oh, it came apart, but I don't know what I just did. So I found channels, and his was one of the best on that regard, about teaching you how to open up these different puzzles. And he opens puzzles, and sometimes he does it like he'll show you in real time, or at least he trims it down. Like he'll say, okay, here's a puzzle, and I'm going to solve this puzzle, and it might take him 45 minutes to solve it, and he runs a timer and stuff. And so one of the puzzles that he just did here was from Riot Games. Now you may have heard of Riot Games. They've done this, 2 board games, Mechs vs. Minions, and then the one that came out last year, which was not quite as good. But they also have online stuff. One of their new games is Legends of Runeterra, and so they sent him this giant box to promote the game. But I find this sort of thing fascinating because this big box that he opened, and you can find it by looking up the video is called Riot Games built me a one-of-a-kind puzzle box, Legends of Runeterra. But when he does these things, these things that he opens are almost closer to like an escape room than they are to a puzzle. I mean, if you think about it, what's the difference between an escape room and a puzzle? So if I have the 2 little horseshoes and I get the ring off, it's a flip to get that ring off. But I also have some puzzles that require step 1, step 2, step 3. And there are some puzzles that are much more involved than that. And the ones that he shows there are amazing. So I like watching it because even though it makes me feel pretty stupid, like I would never ever be able to, I would get these boxes and maybe I'd figure it out. But it's kind of fun to go on that journey with him. And it's also interesting because this one has a board game relationship, or at least Legends of Runeterra, which is kind of like a card game, which is on, it's an app that you can play, which I do need to get around to playing. I have to see if it's any good or not. So there you go. That's what I found on the internet. I find this stuff to be really interesting. I think puzzles and games are just a step from each other. I mean, what's a really good cooperative game other than a big multiplayer puzzle that you're working on together? Puzzles. You know what? That reminds me, speaking of puzzles, you should check out our update, which is coming to our Kickstarter later today. But I digress. That's Chris Ramsay's channel. I think it's pretty cool, and that's what I found on the internet today.
Hi everybody,
Hello, it's Ryan and Bethany.
from Ryan and Bethany Board Game Reviews.
And today we're talking about H.H. Holmes' Murder Castle. So there's this guy, this is a real guy, H.H. Holmes, who bought this house and then kind of modified it, made it into this big kind of oversized castle. It's supposed to be this really disorienting kind of maze-like house where ultimately his goal was to murder people. So it's kind of a pretty dark theme. But in this game, what we're doing is we are the investigators. We're going in there. We are trying to find all this evidence against Holmes and kind of avoid him. He's there in the house, kind of moving around, trying to block us from getting evidence or making us drop evidence. And yeah, so we're trying to do that, collect all the evidence, and then race back to the entrance of the castle. And the first person to do that is going to win.
So this game has a very, very, very dark theme, obviously. But the gameplay of it isn't actually that dark. If you like to pretend that you like horror games, like Ryan and I, but you actually don't like horror games, like Ryan and I, we like spooky games.
Spooky.
We like to be able to sleep at night. And I feel like this could do that for you. Because I wasn't like creeped out when I was playing this game, because essentially it's just a racing game to get all of your stuff and get to the home base before anybody else does.
Yeah, it has that kind of action selection mechanism similar to a game like Race for the Galaxy, right? Where one person gets to take an action and everyone else gets a lesser version of that same action. I've always loved that mechanism, and it was kind of nice to see that show up here.
Well, guys, if you'd like to hear more from us, you can find us on YouTube or Facebook. We are Ryan and Bethany Board Game Reviews. But until then, this is Ryan. I'm Bethany. Hoping you have a happy, healthy breakfast.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Okay, what's coming from the Dice Tower this week? Well, first of all, tomorrow morning, as always, each week we have the Dice Tower podcast go live. This week it's Mandy and Suzanne, joined by unspecial guest, myself. We talk about games and Vegas and more, so you can find that on our website, along with all the other podcasts in the Dice Tower network. On the video side of things, I'll be back, or Z will be here in just a bit at 10 a.m. playing Kamisato on the app, so that's a great game in real life. I hope it's good on the app. At noon, I'll be here answering questions. Tomorrow, me and my daughters will be reviewing Taxi Derby, and I'll be reviewing several other games this week, including the deluxe version of Rococo and Alter Quest later on this week. I'll also be doing one of my 9 short reviews videos. Then just various things will be popping up throughout the week. Of course, we do all our live shows, crowd surfing, and things like that. So we're gearing up, of course, obviously, like I said, for next week. But just because we're not doing all that, just because next week's going to be top 100 of all time, doesn't mean we don't have content going up this week. We have stuff going up every day. Even marble racing. If you haven't seen that before, it's silly nonsense that we do every Tuesday morning. So come join us tomorrow for some marble racing. And that's called Shoots and Marbles. All right, well, that's what's coming from the Dice Tower this week. Oh, there's still more coming.
This is a segment where we take a look at a board game based on an IP, and I tell you if the mechanisms and the IP mix together. In this case, we're looking at Blue's Clues Blues Snack Match. Let's take a look at how it works. I'll come back and tell you if the IP and the mechanisms fit together or not. So I'm going to put the fridge down so you can see it. Everybody will get one of these. This is what you're trying to collect, just like bingo. So what you're going to do on a turn is you're going to push blue down, and it will spin like a slot machine. If you have the item, let's see, peanut butter came up. I go into the fridge, I can take out a Blue's Clues, and I will cover this up. Very easy to do. Once I have all 3, I can score this, flip it over into my score pile, and I draw a new one from the bag. If you're able to complete 3 lunch boxes, you are the winner of the game. So it's just like bingo, except for using this toy thing to generate what will come up bingo style, and you look on your board and you cover up what comes up. Very easy to play. Kids can understand it very simply. Welcome back. So that's Blue's Clues Blues Snack Match. As you can tell, it is just bingo. The toy factor is what we're selling here. We got a fridge where you plus blues on top and it spins, and kids absolutely adore and love that. It does fit the IP in the fact that you're looking for the clues, which is really the bingo that you're playing, and you put the Blue's Clues down. Now, I play this with my 2.5-year-old, so your mileage may vary. Bingo still works for him. He loves Blue's Clues. The toy factor, the spinning slot machine really, really works. So for a 2.5-year-old, 3-year-old, 4-year-old, this works fine. Anybody over that, I think they're going to get bored rather quickly. But for its target market, the IP, putting the clues down, it works. Not the greatest of games, it's just bingo, but the toy factor and the Blue's Clues puts it over the top. Nothing you need to seek out, nothing to see here. Not much of a game in many respects. For very, very small children, and that's about it.
Hi, I'm Josh from the YouTube channel Josh Yaks, here to check out another cool thematic game mechanism. Today's mechanism is an especially unique one because it is limited information card backs. This mechanism is seen in one of my favorite games of the past decade, the criminally underrated game The Boss, designed by Alain Ollier. When you're the head of a major crime syndicate, it's vitally important to get as much information about rival mob families as possible while giving away as little info as possible to them. This sort of clever deduction is made possible by card backs whose colors match those of the cities that are in play. Each of these cities has a reward for the player who has the most mobsters in the city at the end of a game round, and the possible rewards for each one are shown on the city cards. More often than not, you'll end up getting a nice fat sack of dough. However, the reward for your criminal activities could also end up being a stint in the clink, some time in hospital, or worst of all, you could end up getting whacked. I'm going to get to these interesting card backs in a sec, but first let's look at what players are doing. Every time a player's turn comes around, they have the option of increasing the presence of their gangsters in a city, but what's not optional is that they have to reveal one of the reward cards that's in their hand. Players try to deduce which cities have good rewards versus harmful ones based on the cards they have in their own hand, plus the cards other players are revealing, and by observing how other players are placing their gangsters in the cities in relation to how much information on each city that they're holding in their hands. This last bit of vital info comes from the very clever yet simple mechanism of the reward cards having these colored backs that show what cities they match up with. The combination of area control plus deduction works so well in The Boss. I really need to talk about this great game on my own YouTube channel sometime. And speaking of which, you can see other videos I've done, such as a video covering the entire Mr. Jack series of games, which are also brilliant deduction games, at Josh Yaks. Cheers!
It's been a while since I've seen the Boss board game, but that's actually in the Dice Tower library. I think it's a cool little game. Alrighty, folks. Well, this is Gloomhaven Fallen Lion comics. Now, I'm showing you 3 different covers here, but they're essentially the same one. This is available. I think you can get a copy of this for $4, which, as comics go, is pretty much the standard rate here. I'm not going to show you a ton of this. This is a one-shot. I think they're going to have more coming. I'm not quite sure on that. I would like to see more because I prefer to read series of comics. But this is about the different characters that show up in Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion, which is actually kind of weird because I play these characters and then they're also in this game, and it's kind of an odd thing because I've already made backstories and stuff in my head for the characters, and now I'm finding other ones, and you can see they actually have them in a tavern scene. Also, the characters in this comic tend to do much better in combat than I do, and also Mike. But yeah, I like it. It's an interesting idea. I think the art is good. The story is good. I mean, it's a pretty short book here. And then, of course, advertises, other games. Deep Water is helping put this together and stuff. So I'd like to see more of this. On one hand, I know it's an advertising tool to get more people to, check out Gloomhaven. But it is a cool crossover, and I think these things are good. So I'm pretty sticklerish when it comes to art on comics. I like the art here. It's, very reminiscent of the Gloomhaven universe. I would love to see more from this, and so we'll keep an eye out in the future. But that's the Gloomhaven Fallen Lion comic books, and you can find these online.
Hey there everyone, it's Jen, the board game librarian, flipping some pages and pushing some cubes in my segment From the Page to the Table, where I pair a book and a board game together that share a common theme. Now, what do you think I could have up my sleeve today? I could have up my sleeve Lori Hales Anderson's Wonder Woman Tempest Tossed. This is a children and teen graphic novel that came out last year. Anderson has done a reimagining of Wonder Woman's origin story. Starts out very similarly, where she is on the mascara, but instead of Steve Trevor crashing his airplane into their waters, it's a bunch of immigrants that kind of break through. Diana has this passion and mission to save them, but in turn she herself becomes an immigrant in a new land. So yes, everyone knows I am a huge Wonder Woman fan, and I was really thankful to Cryptozoic for sending me Wonder Woman 1984, the card game. And in this game, you are kind of in smash-up style, looking to defeat enemies by placing a variety of cards with symbols at each enemy, and then you break the base like you do in smash-up. It's a really easy game, and it's one that I would recommend to the Wonder Woman fans in your life that are not gamers. I've talked about this before, but I think games like this have a really great spot in our collections and in our industry, because then we get someone like me who is a Wonder Woman fan and maybe not necessarily a gamer. A great recommendation for some new Wonder Woman content in your life. That is all. Happy breakfast, everyone.
Howdy folks, welcome to By the Numbers. My name is Hunter Thomason from the Family Showdown. On this episode of By the Numbers, we're continuing my Through the Years series, where I look at the best game on Board Game Geek by year. Started with 1970, this time 2003. Taking a look at the top 5 from 2003, we see the number 1 game is Yinch. Yinch, coming in at 183. Yinch is an abstract strategy game where you have 5 little rings. You're moving these rings around a board, you're leaving a trail of your pieces behind it. You're trying to get 5 in a row. The trick is, when you jump over pieces, they flip to the other side, which is your opponent's color, or you can flip your opponent's color to your color. Each time you get 5 in a row, you lose one of your rings, which makes you less powerful, but gets you one step closer to winning, because when you remove 3 of your rings from the board, you win the game. Yinch is part of a series of games called the Gift Projects. They're all abstract games, and Yinch is the #1 rated game in this series on Board Game Geek. Take a look at the ratings, over 7,000 of them. We see tons of 8s for an overall rating of 7.7. Take a look at the weight, it comes in at 2.71, which is kind of the middle of the road, which is common for abstract games. They're usually pretty easy to teach, but they're very difficult to master. Take a look at the top 5 abstract strategy games on Board Game Geek. See, Yinch comes in at number 5. Not too bad. As you can see, Yinch is a gift to us all. See you next time.
I don't believe puns like that are allowed on this show. Gift to us all. But Yinch is a truly, truly amazing game. All right, folks, it's 2021. And so I don't remember where I was. I was getting a form filled out about something, and I tried to blot those memories from my brain. And I asked the person, you know, they were dating it, and I asked them, how often do you write 2020 on these forms? And they said only the very first one. After that, they got it correctly. But I remember that we used to do that, right? The new year comes by, and it would happen in school for me. I remember that, you know, because we dated everything. You write your name and your date. If you don't write your name and your date, then you don't get any points. And I was like, why is the teacher so strict about this? Till I became a teacher, and kids who don't write their names on their test. Anyhow. But you put your date, and you know, when the year would turn, I would still be writing 1992, and it was now 1993. That would last somewhere into January, and you finally get it right. And once you become an adult, I didn't write the date as much, but then, and checks. Checks, kids, are a thing that we used to use before they invented credit cards, and I don't miss checks. Now I don't sign things too much. I sign documents and contracts and things like that, or I'll type something out, like we'll title our videos, you know, something, and it's like, oh, it's 21. In fact, you'll probably at some point see a board game breakfast or something along the line where it says something 2020, and no, it's 2021. Now, the reason I talk about this is because in regards to board games, this is something that we think about all the time. It's probably not a big deal for most people, but we just did our best of 2020. All those lists in December. In the Winter Spectacular, that's what it all was. And now we're playing games, and this always happens in January. I get these games, and I'm like, is this a 2020 game, or is it a 2021 game? And it's really kind of confusing. Kickstarter does not make it simpler, because what publishers do is they'll put it in, for the most part, most people use Board Game Geek as the center point to what a game is. But there are games on Board Game Geek where the dates are funky. Sometimes it's the date when the game first came out, even if it was print and play. A good example of this is Mystery of the Abbey. Mystery of the Abbey came out, I don't know, in the 2000s from Days of Wonder, but it came out much earlier than that as a print and play that people could get. And that's the date on Board Game Geek, which can be confusing because most people hadn't heard of it until Days of Wonder printed it. So companies will put various dates, and if you look on the game itself, the date of when it was given to the printers is the date that's in that rule book. And so again, the question is, why does it matter? Well, it matters for like best of year purposes or giving out awards. So it's always a tough call. You know, we got some games that just came in the mail this week. So they're obviously 2021 games because it's the third week of January. But maybe someone got one of the copies of these games in the last couple weeks of December. So for those people, it's a 2020 game. For us with the Dice Tower Awards, which is something we were starting to work on now, we do it at the beginning of every year. We start talking about games that are, can win the Dice Tower Awards for the year 2020. And multiple languages. A game comes out in one country and then it comes out in another country years later. You'll notice this sometimes. A game that will win the Spiel des Jahres in Germany came out in America like a few years earlier than that, and vice versa. So I don't know. It's just something I've been thinking about. It's an interesting thing. And so what we do at the Dice Tower is we just make the call. We'll say this game is a 2021 game. I don't really care what the publisher says, if no one had it or if two people had it. The Crew is a really good example of that. We consider The Crew to be a 2020 game. It was only out in Germany in I'm sorry, I was about to say 1999, 2019. It was only out in Germany. There was no English version to 2020. So we're saying it's a 2020 game. And again, obviously we're speaking from an English perspective here. I'm not discounting the other language, but I'm saying for us, it's a 2020 game. Then there was things like Isle of Cats, which was a Kickstarter. And maybe 1 or 2 people got it the last week of December, but the vast majority of people got it in 2020. So therefore, it doesn't matter what the date on the game says, it's essentially a 2020 game. So this always comes into play around this time frame, and it's the games that we struggle with are the games that were available in Europe, but not widely available, or there was a limited print run, and sometimes we make one call one way for 1 year and one another year, and like, that doesn't seem consistent. Like an example of that would be Aquatica. We talked about that as a 2019 game. Much later in 2020, I found out there was only a few hundred copies of Aquatica available in 2019. So it probably should have been a 2020 game. And but we had made the call earlier. Now, when I say made the call, it's for like things like Dice Tower Awards and stuff like that. But other than that, I don't go to people's top 10 lists and go, well, actually, this is a 2020 game or a 2021 game. But it's something we think about. I actually have an internal document that we have of games that I consider to be 2021 games, because we need to make it now, because at the end of 2021, when we do the best of year and we look at some games, if they're marked as 2020, they won't even pop up on our radar. And if they come out at the beginning of the year, you can forget them as they come out. So, yeah, that's the thing about dates. Dates, lots of fun, lots of confusion. I know people are very excited about 2021, mostly because it's not 2020. I'm excited about 2021 because there's already, I can't tell you all the number of cool games that we got to play. We played some great ones last week. We got more coming on the way. And you know what? If you write the wrong date for another month or so, it is what it is. But I think, interestingly enough, that this year will be one of the easiest years to remember to change the date in our lifetimes. That's what I think.
Hi! I'm here with my daughter, Cece. Say hi, Cece.
Hi.
Good. Okay, Cece, before I start, can you pass me something to drink, please? There, you want something to drink? Yeah, I guess it doesn't work. Pass me the first game there. Cece, don't you want to play Heroes of the Colosseum? Huh? You're a gladiator. You're already equipped with a hat. And the people cheer. Ah! Huh?
No.
Okay, give me the other one there. The other one. Come on. Come on, time is money. What about being a cowboy? Or a cowgirl? Huh? In Gunslinger?
No.
Why not? Why don't you want to be a cowboy?
I'm a gladiator.
Okay, give me another game. I'm not even gonna look. Huh? I'm not looking. Give me the game. Oh. Where? Look at this. Huh? Struggle for the Galactic Empire. Do you know Isaac Asimov?
No.
See, that's the problem. It's a lack of education. That doesn't make people play war games. But this is a psychological war game where you play one of the psyops, where you can read minds. Huh? You wanna play?
No.
Come on! U-boat. Huh? U-boat where you're a submarine person. And the thing is that you could cook. Don't you want to cook? You like cooking? You could cook while saving the world. Huh? That's my daughter, man. I love her so much. Give me a kiss. Give me. No, doesn't work. All right, give me another game. Ooh, Sekigahara, the unification of Japan. This is by GMT and designed by a billionaire. He's a billionaire. All right. He doesn't need the money. He designed a beautiful, elegant game about the unification of Japan, where basically it's two armies, or three armies, I should say, where they murder themselves for the unification of Japan. Sekigahara. You want to unify Japan?
No.
How about this game? You want to play this game? It's a bowling game. Spare time. Oh, God. Okay, well, I tried.
Huh. All right. Well, that's how we're ending the show, folks. Alrighty. Don't forget our contest. If you missed it, you're just joining us now. You can enter a contest. We give all the information at the beginning. If you're on the fence considering backing Dice Tower Kickstarter, as always, I tell people consider it as one of the subscriptions that you do over the course of the year if you watch a lot of our content. And so go back us. It's just a one-time payment. But if you can't, I understand that completely. Our content is free. Everyone's always, we want you to watch it, have a good time. But if you can't back our Kickstarter financially, which I completely understand, then tell people about it. Go out and spread the word. Let other people know so that they can support us, so that we can make our stuff better. Folks, I am super excited about the future. I am super excited about what we can do. I'm also super excited about lunch, which is not too far away. But before that, in 29 minutes, we'll be back here with Z playing... Kamisato on What's Happening, and I'll be back with a Q&A at noon, so if you have questions, that's your time. But that's it for Board Game Breakfast. Thanks again to all the wonderful contributors who gave great segments. Until next time, I'm Tom Vasel, and you've been watching Board Game Breakfast.
Thanks for watching Board Game Breakfast. Tune in each week for your daily dose of gaming goodness with Tom Vasel and all the gang. Until next time, I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching Board Game Breakfast, a Dice Tower production.